How you doing?
Great. How are you, Khaled?
Good. Very nice to meet you. Got a few questions, a lot to break down. So I'm going to ask it based on obviously the regions that our websites are at. What is in it for the big municipalities like Mississauga, Brampton, and Hamilton?
Thanks, Khaled. It's a very important question. This pandemic has hit us all, and certainly we need to present that next step to our response to COVID-19. And so today we've outlined a series of measures. Our number one priority, of course, is the health and safety of the people of Peel. But we also need to start looking around the corner and laying the foundation on that path to recovery. Peel is full of a lot of people like my parents, new Canadians who found their start in small business, lots of mom and pop shops, lots of small business people. And we've heard loud and clear that this pandemic has been really tough on them. So today we introduced a series of recovery measures, in addition to the health supports that we announced, that's going to make sure that when this pandemic is in the rearview mirror, and hopefully that'll be soon, that Ontario will be able to recover quicker than any other jurisdiction, return to those days of prosperity. And so today we've announced some series of tax cuts and other support measures to make sure we get there quicker than anybody else.
Okay. And what's in it for small businesses? As much details as possible, if you can.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with a property tax cut.
Okay.
It's called the BET, the Business Education Tax, and there's a provincial portion and a municipal portion. Now, municipal governments have been hit hard on the revenue side through this pandemic as well. So the municipal portion is going to remain the same, but the provincial tax portion is going to have a substantial reduction. And so that means 94% of businesses throughout Ontario, throughout Peel region, are going to see a property tax cut overall of up to 30%, because we are reducing that provincial portion down to 0.88%. That means your mom and pop shops all the way out to your medium-sized businesses and beyond are going to benefit from those reduced expenses. We're also adding another tax cut on the EHT side of things, the employer health taxes. This basically is a tax on jobs. And so earlier in the pandemic, we announced that we previously, if you had payroll in 1 year of a company up to $490,000, you didn't have to pay any EHT. Tax on jobs. So what we did during the pandemic is we raised the ceiling to $1 million in payroll. So if you were a business now with $1 million in payroll, you weren't paying any EHT during the pandemic. We've announced today that that measure is now permanent. So if it's up to $1 million in payroll, you pay 0 EHT. But we've also improved that. If you're a medium-sized business and you have payroll of $1 million to $5 million, you're going to receive a 50% tax cut on the EHT. This is going to allow businesses to hire more people, to invest back into their businesses, and that's going to lead to more provincial revenue down the road through jobs.
A lot of people have lost their jobs throughout this pandemic. What has this budget done for people that are out of work?
A hugely important question, Khaled, and that's why from the beginning of this pandemic, we put partisan differences aside and we work with all levels of government. We've been in step with our finance counterparts in Ottawa, and so we've released a coordinated program. And so you'll hear that the federal government announced the commercial rent program that will be tenant-led. This is going to be matching our support. So the feds are going to help with the rent support and the wage subsidies. We're going to fill in the gaps in those fixed costs for these businesses, improve conditions for people to be able to hire more. So we're taking care of some of the property taxes, some of the EHT, the BET, as I spoke to. And we're also helping with hydro bills, and we've invested billions into helping businesses lower their hydro rates. We're also doing other things like helping people who've been out of work in, let's say, the hospitality sector. It's been very hard hit. We're allowing for a retooling of those skills. So we're allowing for micro-credentials. And that means that if you want to operate a specific piece of machinery for a company that desperately needs to hire, you'll now be able to go down to your local college, receive a micro-credential to operate that machine, get right into that job. And this is going to help those people who are looking for new work as well.
I talk to Patrick Brown, Mayor Patrick Brown, every week, and he mentions the healthcare crisis in Brampton every week. Is there anything in the budget for this?
Absolutely. Tell Mayor Brown I say hi. I know
Okay.
very well. Great guy. But yeah, look, I said it off the top, Khaled, health and safety is our number one priority. And so in this budget, we announced an additional $7.5 billion. That's going to be a total of $15.2 billion of healthcare spending this year. And that's the right thing to do. There's no expense you can put on the safety of the people that we serve. And this is true for Brampton. You heard Premier Ford announce a new hospital for Brampton, and it's been asked for a very long time. And Mayor Brown has been a big supporter of that cause, and certainly we heard him. But we're going to continue to help the great people of Brampton. We're going to help them in a series of other ways, whether that's for insurance rates, whether that's for helping the businesses, as I said. Love the great people of Brampton. 905.
Good. I heard the staycation credit will, with the tourism campaign to cross-promote Ontario regions for tourism. Do you think that's a little bit confusing in regards to the messaging to get people to stay home, but saying, hey, go out and visit?
Yeah, that's a fair point, Khaled, and that's why we haven't released the details on that staycation tax credit yet, because it's not the appropriate time to do that. And so that's why this budget is a balance. We're not through the second wave yet, and so we have to focus. And that's why most of the budget you'll see is on the protection and the support measures that I spoke about. But it is time to look around the corner. It is time to think ahead to when the day is here that COVID-19 is behind us. And that's when we'll introduce the details on the staycation credit. It's going to be a 20% tax credit. We know it's going to be safer to travel within our borders than it'll be to travel without our borders first. And so when the time is right, we're going to make sure that we're able to explore the amazing parts. We have 2 time zones in Ontario. We don't realize how big and amazing this province is. This is going to allow people to crisscross every corner of Ontario and discover all that it's great for.
Parents with kids with special needs will receive $250. Is that?
That's correct. That's
correct.
That's hard stop. I mean, it's 20. If you have a child with special needs, under 21 years of age, you're going to receive $250 per child. If you have children under the age of 12, you're going to receive $200 per child. And this is the second time we're doing that this year, Khaled. So let's say you have 2 children under the age of 12. Total this year that you're going to receive in supports from the government is $800. And the reason for that one-time payment, well, now 2-time payment, is because we realize this pandemic has been hard on parents. People have had to upgrade their internet packages to have more data. You've had to buy an additional iPad because everyone's on Zoom. So this is going to help parents cope with those additional unexpected expenses.
Okay. And one last question. Will the province put aside additional funding to support Peel businesses just in case there is a lockdown?
I love that question. It's absolutely what we did the first time around with the $300 million in supports for those affected by the revised stage 2. That went to direct relief for property tax. The portal is going to be open on November 16th, where businesses who were affected by the shutdowns can go in there and apply for these relief measures. And it's going to help with hydro. It's going to help with the EHT, as I mentioned. These are the real relief measures that businesses ask for. And so nobody wants to see another shutdown, Khaled, but if it's necessary based on the advice of the medical health team and it has to happen, we're going to make sure that we're there with our small businesses every step of the way so they can weather this storm.
Okay, and sorry, just one question about Halton. Milton, one of the fastest growing cities in Canada, are there any plans to build any new schools with the budget?
You just put me on the spot when you're going to ask me to throw the education minister under the bus. Milton is an awesome place. It's a beautiful place. I'm very close with the MPP for Milton, Parm Gill. It's a quickly growing area, and that's why Minister Lecce has put aside, in addition to the general funding for education, which is at historically high levels, he's also put aside $13 billion over the next decade for capital improvements, and that means fixing existing schools, but also building new schools in growth areas like Milton. And so, Khaled, if you're going to lobby Minister Lecce, let's get on board together. I'll pull in Parm together. We'll make sure that we get those for the kids.
That's good. One softball question: favorite place to eat in Mississauga?
Well, that's a tough one. You're going to get me in trouble on this one. My wife grew up in Streetsville, so I like Bobby's Diner for a quick breakfast. Pete's Greek food is fantastic. Kobe Korean barbecue at Dundas in here, Ontario. I might have to do that one. Did you just get me in trouble with some of the restaurants? I know I'm forgetting a few, but it's too hard to make a decision. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's probably a better answer than what Premier Ford gave me. So I'll go check later what he said. But thanks.
All right, I'm kidding. Premier Ford gave me a good answer, just not a good one for Brampton. So. All right. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me, Cal. Take care. Stay safe.